Because ATF will be all over us at another day, so it's still going to the village. Okay. Thanks for coming. This is, I really like that technology like that, because we were, you know, you struggle through these meetings and whatever, and it's like, there's got to be some technology out there that really works and whatever, you feel it.
Well, like I was telling John, this is what IS kind of recommended. We looked at a few other models and just decided to get the more expensive one.
Right. Yep.
Just a little freaky.
Yeah, I know. I know.
I turned off its movement today just to see how this works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, and our executive room, we have it in the middle.
Yeah.
The TV is over there, so everybody sees the sides of their heads because we're looking at
Yeah.
everybody else. It's a little odd.
Yeah.
We have
Channels coming in there.
Yeah.
Great.
Morning.
Morning.
Hi.
Good morning.
Kind of developing a reputation for being late, but I'm better than last time. So. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Is there any other better one?
No, that's probably the easiest one. Probably not going to be here.
Yeah.
Good morning.
How are you?
We'll start in a minute here.
Okay.
Let everyone be seated. You don't want to go for, there is a record like Mike Easter. He usually is right spot on like 9:01, 9:02 or whatever, and that's his time frame, whatever. So
Last time I didn't even know where to go. And so I'm pretty better.
Yeah, busy man.
Right. Okay, I'll call this meeting to order. We need to approve the agenda. Agenda is printed.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the agenda as printed. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That is carried. Public comment on agenda items. Anybody out there? No? Okay.
We do have Kathy. Kathy is just watching virtually. So,
okay.
So
welcome, Kathy.
Yeah.
Approval of minutes, May 18th.
Great.
Oh, you. That's
Announcement.
Right. Yeah, I always go by that.
You do.
You do.
I guess I just wanted to let everyone know, and part of the reason why John's here today is yesterday I noticed that details of the 980 building project that has gone through facilities and had a presentation at County Board, Facilities Committee, Judiciary and Public Safety. Just wanted to let you know that that it actually is coming on to, I guess what I would say is solid waste controlled property on that multiple parcel that exists on the south side of Y. So what sits there is our transfer station, the sheriff's department, and the highway department. So we've all kind of over time kind of developed some, you know, it's not surveyed, it's separate parcels, it's just one big parcel, but we all have our lines. And now this 980 that's being planned is coming on the solid waste property. So just wanted to make everyone know. I found out about this through my own, I guess, uncoverings yesterday. And I guess I wasn't consulted with any details of like the footprint, the fact that it was coming to the east. So I was kind of surprised, and I left a voicemail for Mike Elder. I left a voicemail for John. John, and then emailed them both just a map that I'll have Cassie pull up here. But just wanted to, you know, voice my concerns that, you know, when this 980 was first put in its location, we were kind of the last ones to know, along with highway, even though it's right adjacent to Not that, no. You can leave that up just for a second though. When I went on my vacation to Arizona, we took off kind of to the southwest at Appleton and flew right over the landfills. So I was able to get some pictures out the left side of the plane of the Sunnyview site and the Snell Road site. It's kind of,
what is the 980 project?
That's the sexually violent person housing that the county needs to provide to the state. So I guess we went through, you know, there's a whole packet of information and this is going to P&F committee tomorrow. This is where I was able to find some information on it. But there we go. So I guess I almost need a laser pointer at some point here. So I mean, essentially we have here's the road to the highway shop. This is County Road Y. The red line, which is a little hard to see. The red line, when I tried to denote here, is kind of like, this is kind of the solid waste property. The area down here and to the west is highway property, and then this kind of area of the parcel is denoted as sheriff's facilities property. So, you know, the original location was kind of right on the edge. It was on highway property, let's say. And now the plan is to go to the east over toward the road here, which is essentially a haul road. It was built as a haul road for, this was all clay borrow source material back in the day. So we've excavated clay to use for landfill construction. We also created a big stockpile here because we ran out of clay on site and we had to purchase clay from offsite. So that was basically used as a haul road to get materials from south of Y to the landfill side of Y. There's also that the tower, the comm tower that is accessed via this road as well, and then it continues into the highway property. But I guess this came as a surprise to me. I guess I just wanted John and Mike to be aware of it, and I'm a little disappointed that this communications, you know, didn't go through us. I mean, maybe a presentation of some sort, just to say, hey, this is what we were planning. This is why we're planning it, coming toward solid waste. Would have probably helped matters rather than me kind of finding it after the fact. So,
Red Paul.
Now, why don't we just exchange that little bit of land for the corner over here on the line? We've had such a roar about that for the last decade. Put it to bed by making an even exchange. And you got some new people on the facilities, so you're not going to have any holdovers.
Sure.
Since we planted one of them this last week.
Right. Yeah.
I think if you go back, and I think in this room there's probably only myself and Jerry that know the history behind the landfill itself and how it was started, how it set up. It was Jim Coughlin. He was the executive at that time from Winning County. And he, in his infinite wisdom, decided that well, we should run a landfill. That makes sense and whatever. So we talk about the land was purchased from Castle Farm, or who was
I think it was Bartlett.
Bartlett Farm. It was like a couple hundred acres.
Yeah, more than a couple hundred.
And, okay, and what happened at that time, the county bought that land, and the landfill paid them back for the purchase of that land and whatever. And that was the point when we kind of went out on our own and never took another dime from the taxpayers. It was always funded by users, not taxpayers, users of this landfill. Okay, so as we paired off some of that land, and we gave some to the jail for whatever, and then something, whatever, and all that stuff, and whatever. There was kind of a little bit a gentleman's agreement that that was the land. I understand that the county holds what you a legal deed to that piece of property, or our piece of property, or whatever you want to call it. I think that the solid waste department needs to be aware of whatever is going to go on, because I was disturbed that those trailers were put here only for the fact that I was concerned for employees, how close, you know, and all that kind of stuff. So I said, well, that's fine. We'll just put a fence around that whole system over there and whatever. But that didn't go anywhere and all that stuff. So it's just a lot of these lands and stuff have long-term planning going into them. Now that's probably not gonna, that little bit of encroachment there or whatever you want to call it, probably isn't gonna matter one way or the other, but there is some issues that we had with this parcel of land out here. We're maintaining it all along for probably 2 years, 3 years or something like that. And whatever, and we wanted to, we took and looked at the design of a park. That kind of fell through the cracks because of the just the pure cost of it and whatever. It's still a beautiful location back here. But then it's like we built the Ken Roble Park over there. We purchased more land over there from the city of Oshkosh to make sure that we don't have any encroachment of contaminants.
Sure.
And we wanted to do that. But I think the board, everybody on the board needs to be aware of where this came from, where it all developed, and how very proud I am of our bow agreement with our counties, Brown and Allegheny County. It's a great, I mean, it's a great process and great. Without that, we'd be in trouble here and whatever. So I would hope that as long as John is here, which is a good thing, whatever. So, but communication in government or any business is just should be the top priority. And there's I mean, certainly wouldn't hurt to send out an email to everyone that's attached or whatever and stuff. And I know, John, you got it, you know, you're the exec, you got a job to do and whatever and stuff. So, but we're all part of the team. And so I just wanted to give everybody a little brief history on how it goes.
I would agree with Paul's sentiment. And the county's in a spot, and of course, now I kind of wear two hats a little bit, being on the board and being on this board. We were never informed in any way that this was on property that's kind of deemed solid waste property. That I even thought that question came up and it wasn't encroaching on it. Either way, like you say, this isn't prime real estate that we're worried about, and the county board has a problem. I think I said they should have built an apartment when they first brought in the trailer, and I'm going to remind everybody that I said that way back when. And to go with at least 6 or 8 units just seems to make sense now. But the Huber Law facility certainly sticks in my craw, and obviously Paul's, and there's a lot of new people on board now. It's like, you won't sell it to us, you won't give it to us, it's right adjacent here. I don't know what the county's going to do with it, but until they decide, it's our job to keep mowing it, maintaining it, making it look nice. And I don't even know if it's our job, it's a job we've willingly done, because otherwise I don't know how it gets done. So I'm not ready to get in a big fight over the encroachment, but I think the county board ought to be made aware that we're really nice guys, and maybe they ought to play nice with us also.
Communication, Doug. Communication.
Exactly.
Just kind of, John and I did talk about that. So we talked about an option of, you know, maybe a dealer trade to try to facilitate getting that Huber former Huber location back in, I guess, our rights. So we can work with the city to get their final welcome to Oshkosh sign installed, and then have options for other development on our site. So.
Would it be okay? Okay, so can I just make some statements? I'm a newbie. I appreciated the tour, got to go to the top of the garbage hill. That was a highlight. Really appreciate the history. I'm always open for all that history, any of that history. I was a social worker. I did nursing home placements, and placing these 980s is kind of an interesting thing for me. Whatever this, you know, I will bow out of the details of where this is. This is a good discussion. I'm all for what works for everybody, but I will say that it has been a very big learning process for all of us. It's a big issue. $1,100 a day, fines after 6 months of not placing these folks, or whatever. It's just this complex issue. Whatever this board decides, it's kind of like a service to the community. Truly. No, you don't always want to be the nice guy or give. I guess one of my questions was, what is the breakdown of who has what? I know that the deed belongs to the county legally, but is there, it's like sheriff, highway, and
I mean, those lines that I've drawn on there are kind of the gentleman's agreement type lines.
Those are what solid waste owns. That's right. What solid waste owns, or is in charge of, right? Right.
Okay. So that the red outline is kind of our portion of that parcel, that whole parcel.
Do we still have a big portion compared to sheriff and highway? I mean, is it just still the majority? Obviously, it's a landfill. So.
Yeah, I think highway and sheriffs have a little more of that parcel.
But to the south of Y.
Yeah, to the south of Y. North of Y, it's, I guess, all solid waste except for the Huber.
Yeah. Area. I just wanted, just in closing, I just want to say it's a complex thing, and if there was any oversights, and I understand your sentiment, and I'm just a board member, I'm just a county supervisor, but I can see how it would have happened. Just yeah, so I just wanted to be a part of the team. Thank you.
How much I can even say. Yes, well, I think you can, certainly be candid and whatever. I mean, I don't know if there's any secrets. Shouldn't be any secrets or anything. Right. So it's like everybody has to be up front. Right?
Yeah. Well, this is just for information. There's no action. There's no discussion. I mean, this is where it's
information. This has been a discussion. This has been a discussion that has not been placed on your agenda. You want to talk about being open? Why don't we be open to the public? Now, I oversee 120 or almost $190 million budget with 1,200 employees with a staff of 2. It took a time yesterday to drive over here and talk to John, because he said if I don't come and talk to him, he's going to put this on the agenda to talk about today. Now, hold on a second. That was what your email said. It put a gun to my head, is what it was. I'm not too happy that we're sitting here talking about this discussion. Now, this is something that has not been a secret that I've been dealing with for a while. John, had you been listening to some of those department head meetings, we weren't talking about this. I apologize that we did not clear cut say that I'm going to be taking a little bit of the county land appropriated to deal with the giant problem we have in the county, because as a county, I deal with a lot more than just solid waste. I appreciate everything that you guys have done. I think you guys have done a fantastic job with solid waste over the years. And you guys have done a fantastic job getting it off the tax rolls. I think you've done a fantastic job with managing the situation. I think you've done a fantastic job with the bow. A lot of things that you guys do here are simply amazing. This discussion is simply not one of them. Now, I apologize that I wasn't upfront with everybody, but there are a lot of things that play here. Your county board chair almost had this 980 placed in his township out in Rushford, which would have been 20 minutes away from the sheriff's department. So the fact that we're sitting here complaining that this wasn't coming through this committee, that is not a committee of jurisdiction for this project, as much as the land is technically yours, it is absolutely ours. And all the powers that the county board has granted this board in the past was done so in good faith. And that good faith can be pulled back, and all those powers can be pulled back from the county board. So all I'm asking is that we have a little bit of understanding that this situation was a lot harder than it was. We went from 980 possibly coming out to 3 in a matter of a week. That is why we rushed to the county board. We wanted to do more planning. We wanted to do more time, and we don't have time because the June deadline for the court date comes up. And if we don't have a plan in place, right now there is no project technically. There is a policy decision for the board to make. There is an amount of money for the board to say how much we can spend to do this policy, and then we will start planning the build. Until then, there is no project. There is simply a policy decision. And if we can make that policy decision before June, we have a better chance of the judge saying, okay, we're going to hold off a little bit here because they've made a policy decision and they've allocated money for it. So on that, I understand communication. Pat, I don't disagree with you. We have to have better communication. This, I just don't agree with. It's not an agenda.
Okay. As chairman, I need to, I guess, defend the board against, because I've heard it before, the threat of pulling all authorization through a county board decision. That kind of dialogue from anyone is just, it just doesn't make any sense to me. It's easier just to come, just like we did, come here, put the cards on the table and talk about it, rather than, you know, and so, but I think what happens on the county board and is we've run a good business.
Yeah.
So we have some reserves, okay? And there, as long as I've been on this board and I was on the county board for 20-some years, it was always like, they never looked upon the committee structure or committee that did good. They always looked jealously on it because it's like, oh, okay, like solid waste board, you got this big pot of gold out there. Oh, but did not come from the taxpayers. There was no taxpayers' money put into this. This is all the users of this landfill or the whole general session. Yes, the county board can do whatever they want. They created it. They can destroy it. They can do whatever they want to do with it. I think it'd be just a huge mistake to even consider it. But not that government hasn't made stupid decisions before. I was probably involved in a bunch of them, whatever. So, but irregardless, I like to see this communication. I like to hear input, and I like to, I think it makes a lot of sense and whatever. So it seems always to generate more teamwork and whatever, because everybody's got an opinion. It's like, I don't want to ruffle any feathers. I don't want to hurt anybody and whatever. That's not the point of anything, whatever. So where the hell's the pizza?
Not open yet. If I may, I did not mean that, and just meant it as a form of respect. That we have to earn the freedoms that we all have. It's the same thing that's going on with America today. We're trying to grandstand here. We have to earn the freedoms that we have. We have to respect the reasons that we are a free people, and we have to act accordingly. It was not meant as a threat. Some of the great discussions that me and John had yesterday is your ideas of a new transfer station and how we have more segregated
diversion
waste coming,
materials.
division of materials. Yeah. Great discussion. I mean, that's the things I think that we should be having here, discussions on how we make solid waste better. And I understand if a project comes up that bothers you, I get it. But I don't think it should be the board's prerogative to speak unfairly on other projects that are coming up. You know, let's push what we should do here. Let's look at how we do the transfer station. Let's look at how we are able to segregate the materials that are coming in here a little bit better versus this discussion. That's it. And John, I'm not mad at you.
Well, I'm
sad that it made it on as a presentation.
Well, I guess I feel like I'm obligated to keep the board up to speed on things that are ongoing. Now, Jim obviously knew about it. Paul knew about it. I think Shannon knew about it.
I'm sorry, I didn't know exactly this issue.
So I just wanted to make you aware of what's going on, and that's all it was. There's no action item. There's no. I mean, this is where it's going to go, and we're going to be part of the process. So,
how much of that rent do we get?
We'd have to build the
So, okay, fine, thanks.
Everybody. Mr. Chair. Okay, if I could just real quick. I think it's a great conversation. The county as a whole, we need to do something about that 980 problem.
Yep.
Or will it impact the taxpayers on a daily basis? So I support that. I get everybody's concerns about employees and their safety. And from that standpoint, I'm glad we had the conversation. I think it is a good idea that they're not placing this in Winnebago or Rushford or in the middle of Oshkosh. I think this is a good spot for these violent offenders. And I'm also glad, you know, that Paul and Doug brought up, you know, good conversation point about this corner that, you know, we've got a new county exec now and a lot of new board members. Might be a good time to start communication and look at that. What can we do to improve what's been a concern for some for a long time? So anyway,
okay.
Yeah.
I do just want to say real quick, you don't mind, that we did have talks about that corner, and it's something I want to solve. I think it makes sense. I think it makes sense that be part of this. One of the facts we require a CDL for operators here is they have to cross county-wide. You know, so for us to be able to figure out a way that we're not going to be able to bring it all over here, but to make most of the stuff over here, I think would help. It would help John's operations. It would help us dramatically. And I just want to let you know that my passion comes from how hard this project is. This is already a difficult enough project. It's really hard to get support for it, and support's not something I've asked for. It's understanding. I think we all understand how hot button this is. I think we all understand that nobody wants to house these people anywhere. Just not our option. So when you reach out to me and I knew this was going to potentially came up, I made sure to make time to come over because I don't need any extra current against this as it is. I mean, it's extremely difficult. So please don't take my passion and place it anchor. That's not where it's coming from.
I'd like to thank the state of Wisconsin for handling it. Very diplomatically, it's like, here, let's hand it off. Yeah. Let's pass it. Let's pass the rule.
right.
Right.
Just for the record, nobody's better than the county to handle it. I had a piece of property and 20 years younger, I would jump on the chase, stick $1 million into it because nobody pays $2,000 a month rent that I'm aware of. So the county is getting quite well subsidized. And what kind of chaos would we have if some private landlord built this structure and he was in charge of these 980s instead of the county and the entire sheriff's department? So I believe there's other counties where anybody that can meet the criteria, they just stick them in there, and it's Joe Blow's house that he's renting. That's what they attempted to do in Rushford. There's landlords out there that would love to have the $2,000 a month. So I think, given all the options, that's probably the best one. So, and fortunately, we didn't have any plans for that property. Which would have been if we had already had some plans that the board didn't know about, and so we probably proceed Break ground more would get the shovel.
I just thought back, John, about how this whole process started. Way back when it was super secretive and whatever. And of course, then what happens is the same thing that happened in that shooting in Texas. A little bit leaks, then too much leaks and whatever, and then everything goes against to try and do that and whatever and stuff. So that was, I certainly learned the lesson through that. It was like, you're better off to have your whole team in on what the heck's going on than it is to try and slide it piecemeal and whatever, because it's like, if you have any enemies, let them show themselves by limps. You know, when you kick them real hard and whatever, they limp and all that stuff.
I can assure you there was no attempt to be secretive here. I wasn't trying to hide anything.
No, I think though it's part of it. It's part of it. It was part of the timing of everything and whatever. And that's what I think was what started it off on a negative. You know, you guys, I should say you guys, the county was going down this path, and that was the path you had to go down, right, and whatever and stuff. So how to get the rest of the operation to dovetail into doing that, whatever, that's your job.
My job was staff too, and it was the priority level became extremely higher. In the first 4 years of this, we've had 3 total that have come out. This summer we're looking at 3 and within a span of 2 months. And there may be more coming, and who knows what the future of Sandridge is. Who knows? I know there's legislation right now they're working on in 980s. It doesn't make the problem go away. So thank you.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Moving on. I just got a couple other announcements to make. We have a new equipment operator started last week Monday. So he's still working through the process of training on different pieces of the equipment and operations, but he hit the ground running pretty well, being able to run a loader right from the get-go. So so that's getting us closer and closer to being fully staffed in that. No, this is a different one. Yeah, yeah. Kurt Neitzel, his name is. So, and then Cassie's going to have a new solid waste associate starting on Monday the 6th. So after a little longer period of training, hopefully a month of training, that will be
fully staffed.
Back to fully staffed operations for the Saturday rotation, people having vacations and that sort of thing. So that's good. And then we're still waiting on a summer seasonal. I think there's one out there that HR is trying to get to come to solid waste. And I just got a call prior to the meeting before from Ron Montgomery. So I imagine he's going to give me an update. So hopefully we'll have a seasonal too. Since we're in June now, we're out of the no-mow section. So hopefully we can have a seasonal take care of the mowing activities. So. Yes, we're still short a mechanic, and we're still holding pattern on the environmental. So that's all I have.
Yes.
So during the tour, one thing that I learned from you, Mr. Reedy, is did I say your name right?
Yeah, you did.
That low wage, the lower part of an equipment operator has been a hang up as far as wage. Is there any additional, do you feel like this is going to work out, or you're just going to keep us posted?
We'll see what happens.
I mean, I dare bring that up. It's just.
Well, I guess I see that the wage study is now out on Demand Stars. So,
okay.
You know, the process has started to solicit proposals. So we'll just cross our fingers and wait for this study compensation study to take place.
If you need any citizen volunteers for any of that stuff, I'll be happy to sit in on anything.
Me and John have been having some really great talks about the staffing. I think he's lucky to be as fully staffed as he is. And to Doug, to your point on the mechanic, it's something that we need to look at and see if we're going to have enough gas to have all these running. Does that make sense long term? Environmental manager, you know, we even talked about bringing that to the bottle, is there a way that we can have a specialist that works in all 3 counties? And we split it. He told me the history of back in the day, they want to do one solid waste manager for all 3 counties. That's a no-go. But maybe a specialist position, that's something that we could discuss. And I think long-term, I think that makes a lot of sense. The 3 counties can get together. We might be able to afford a position that sticks around, does good work for us. Yeah, so he's been working on it.
That's it for that.
All right. We need to approve the minutes of May 18th, open session. Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That is carried.
Okay.
Budget.
Why don't you pull up my summary there?
I hate talking about
Do you want me to?
it. It just turned into not budgets.
Yeah, you can go to.
I love everything else in my life.
Just try not to show the closed session stuff. I didn't do a very good job of this. So yeah. So there's 2 things that I wanted to bring to your attention today. So we need a budget adjustment for legal services, 55001. Our 2022 budget included $10,000 for legal services, which is, I mean, it's probably normally in the realm that we put in there. But with the whole Snell Road drawdown event lawsuit that has started, we received a phone call from DeWitt, and they said, "Oh, by the way, we haven't invoiced you in a while." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I haven't seen invoices in a while." So they sent us this big invoice that included work that was done in 2021 and work that has been done to date in 2022, totaling about $20,000. So what Cassie did is work with their billing department to get it broke out a little more in detail so we could split off the 2021, work with finance to get that allocated to the 2021 financials. And then obviously the 2022 in this budget year. So the 2022 amount was a little over $11,000 already. Obviously we had the lawsuit discussion. Ron was indicating a number, you know, potentially upwards of $100,000 we could spend on this endeavor. So I guess what I would propose to the board is to do a budget adjustment to increase our legal services account from 10,000 in the 2022 budget to a higher number, whether you want to go to the 100,000 right away or something in between and then come back another time. But putting it in the budget doesn't mean we're going to spend it, but it just allows us to continue to build to that account. So
I put that in the budget. Does that then terminate at the end of 2022? You know, then you readjust. That's what happens. It's,
right.
It's unspendable.
Yeah. What we do is, depending on the situation or where we're at in the process, we'll budget a certain amount in 2023 if it carries into that. But we need to do something, otherwise Carolyn Finance is going to be telling us we don't have money in our budget to pay for those invoices.
Taking this from retained earnings?
No. No.
What are you talking about?
All this is a budget. We're not spending anything. So we'll take care of the paperwork with finance to do a budget adjustment to account for this. But I don't know that we're going to have to necessarily go into retained earnings to pay for this. So,
yeah, my assumption falls when you can do this, and then when you go to get the approval of the board, how to spend that money, then you'll have to determine where you're getting that money from, right? I would assume.
Well, it'll all be part of operations until the end. So,
Well, if you're going to add another $80,000, any expenses to the budget, you gotta balance it off from revenue. Where's that gonna come from? That's my question.
Okay. I guess we'll talk to Carol to get a clarification of if there's any, I don't think there's any dollar transfer from retained earnings for a budget adjustment like this, but we can get clarification on that. But we need to do something so we can pay for it.
Yes.
Yeah, just a question so I can have
Yep.
this on from the administration.
Yep.
Is this a transfer you're looking to do this year or something you're looking to put in the 2023 budget?
No, this year.
Your transfer for this.
It's not something unique. We've done this.
No, no.
So
Yep.
I mean,
I get it, Paul. You know, at some point in time, it has to be balanced off and whatever and stuff. Okay,
Well, you're either gonna cut something else where that you want to, so you transfer it over, or else you're just gonna go into the piggy bank and take out $1,000.
Got 3 employees we haven't paid for
Right.
several months. So,
right.
there might be 90 right there.
Yeah. So,
okay, I'll entertain a motion then to
So moved.
well, yeah, but you have to put a dollar amount on it, whether or not you want to go to the 100. How much?
Taking out labors.
Okay,
I don't know if we, you know, yeah, add 90.
okay, so you want to increase the budget amount to 100,000.
Correct.
Okay, just the
The
way
way
it's
that it necessarily has to come
What she said.
Okay. The motion's been made and seconded to go along with
Who's
staff's
second?
recommendation,
Okay.
which is to increase the amount to 100,000. Okay, or an increase in 90.
Yeah.
And whatever, so everyone understand that motion? Motion was made and seconded, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried.
Okay. And I'll verify with
You
finance.
tell them they'll get paid.
Yeah. And the second thing I just wanted to mention is we don't have to do anything with it yet, but we had our 0-turn mower that's used over at Snell Road, which they usually get the third hand-me-down of the bunch to just mow along the sides of the roads and around the office building. And it was looking really nice on the tour, but you know what happened during the mowing? The mower developed an oil leak, and upon further inspection, the motor is shot. 2005 Gravely. That was in not the best shape. So what we ended up doing is, now we didn't budget for a new mower in 2022, but what finance looks at is the pot of money in the 58,004 capital equipment. So we were able to purchase, it's kind of hard to find commercial mowers now, but we were able to find one that met our criteria up in Kakana, and we were able to purchase that and took acquisition of that. And then the oldest mower that we have in the fleet ended up going over to Snell for mowing over at Snell.
So I like that. Some people go over there, so when I volunteer my time.
Right, you cut the part. Yeah, this will be a little nice.
Yeah,
This
right.
is a 2015 Toro.
Headphones.
There's headphones, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
earmuffs. Headphones, right?
The one with the engine failure did they give you any money for that? Or, I mean, parts are precious
Yeah.
right now. but nobody can find them.
Right, yeah. Well, we looked at options to, find a motor somewhere. They didn't make the exact match motor anymore. It just wasn't cost effective for that old of a unit. And so, yeah, we're gonna sell it on the surplus site. What we do is we've got of some vehicles that have turned over the last couple of years. So we're gonna have a couple of different vehicles that are gonna go on the surplus auction site, which is how we liquidate county property, and the Gravely will go on there. Yeah, as is.
Even if we don't get one for it, at least somebody else will appreciate the parts and pieces.
Yes.
Again,
Yeah, so we don't have to do a budget adjustment quite yet on this, depending on our spending the rest of 2022. We haven't taken delivery of that loader yet, but that still shouldn't push us over the amount. So just want to make you aware of that.
Okay.
So if you see a brand new mower out there when you guys leave, That's why.
That would be amazing.
Three months, right? He wanted to drive all the equipment.
Yeah.
I knew you could hang a flag on the back of that.
Right, right. Yeah. So that's all I had
That's all
for
we had
budget
for that?
adjustments.
Okay, Paul, if you could do number 7, please.
The secretary, make him do it.
Yeah, that's right. Jim.
Normally, yes, normally the secretary reads the closed session, all the fluff that we have to read.
Section 19.8.
The record.
I will once
Process actions at this point, and leaving the board shall consider a motion to convene into closed session for the purpose of deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public property, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business, whatever competitive or bargaining reasons required closed session in relationship to the power purchase agreement negotiations.
Need a roll call vote to go into that.
Do I have a second?
I have a first.
You're first. Did somebody second it? You did? Okay.
We need a roll call.
All right. Pat,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Kevin, Jerry,
Yes.
and Shauna. That is everybody.
We're in closed session.
Give me one.
Yes, you will certainly do it.
At a future meeting, hopefully the next one, in June here in 2 weeks, and have something to actions.
Okay, thank you. And I mean, again, if something turns up that we have to move
More quickly.
quickly, and whatever, we can always have a meeting and just, to move it along, because I think I don't want to fall behind on this whole deal. I think we end up on the wrong end of that stick if we don't get some of this kind of deal cut.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, we need a motion.
Doug made the motion. I need a second.
I'll say.
Okay.
Roll call.
All right. Pat,
Aye.
Paul,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Doug,
Aye.
Kevin,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
and Shauna.
Aye.
That is everybody.
We are now in open session again. Return to operations program report.
Yeah. I don't know if you can share the.
I'm trying. Takes a second to load.
Yeah.
You got something else to do, John.
Yeah, I got another 10 minutes.
Yeah, so I have a number of bullets here that I'll just talk through. I know we're in June. We finished our May allocation, but we don't get a bill from WPS yet. So I've got April numbers here. We had 106,271 in WPS revenues for April. Last year, we had 140,989. Obviously, with losing engine 5, we're a little behind the 8 ball now, but trying to keep that above 100,000 a month is kind of our current goal with what's being produced. So we're at 462,866 through 4 months, averaging about 115,716 per month. Like I said, if we can keep it right around 100,000, I think a month, we're doing a good job. There's going to be times when we're going to have to take some engines down for repairs. Engine 3 is getting close to going in for some repairs soon. We're just waiting on some parts. So highway didn't use any gas in April again. Typically in the summer months, they don't really use much. At some point, we'll have to have a discussion with the highway commissioner because they're not using enough of it to really justify that connection. It's either you use it or you don't use it. And I think it's almost to the point where, maybe the time frame has run its course. And maybe we talk about just severing that pipeline connection and being able to use the gas for our own purposes. I mean, if they're not going to use it, we should use it. So, and there's some additional Public Service Commission pipeline compliance issues with the spur that comes off the header to the highway. So if we, decommission that section, then we don't have to deal with the compliance associated with that little spur. So.
Gas and it's harder equipment.
Yeah, it is dirtier gas. I mean, it is a little more maintenance intensive on their equipment, but I don't know why, some months, my guys go and get the meter readings and sometimes it's exactly the same as it was last month. Other times they're using it. So I don't know the rhyme or reason behind it. We have not been able to necessarily. Wow.
No, it's a lack of the bell.
Yeah.
I agree. If dirty, if they prefer not to use it, then
let us use the dirty gas.
Yeah,
or sell it.
That line shut off, because if they're compliant, that there isn't a leak in that.
Right.
New line is expensive also.
Right. Yeah. So, I guess as far as operation goes, we have the 3 engines. Some days the Hill produces enough good quality gas to run 3. So we run 3 during as much of the peak hours as we can. And then we have timers set where they'll shut off. Like last night, we ran 3 till 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock comes, 1 shuts off. We just run 2, let the Hill recover overnight. And then this morning, 7 o'clock, boom, we turn on the 3rd one. We'll try to do that again today. If we get cooler weather, if we get northwest winds, it has an impact on the well field. And we battled that the previous weekend where we only ran 2 engines over the weekend and the dang Hill would just not recover. I mean, Monday, too, it wasn't until Thursday before it recovered because of the cooler weather, the northwest winds. We have yet to be able to figure out why it's impacting the gas like it is. We should have had a blanket heater. Right. So we're trying to balance it. What makes most sense, generate as much as we can during on peak, and if we have to shut things down on the weekends, we do that. We still only have 1 mechanical technician or mechanic, Clint Byer, his name is. He's been a trooper over the last several months. I don't know how much longer I want him to have this responsibility. I mean, I know he appreciates the overtime, but he did have a vacation scheduled. So what we did when he was going to be gone on vacation out of state, we just turned the flare on. We flared for 5 days. And when he came back, he got things back and running. And so there's going to be times when on the weekend he's not available. You're going to see the flare up because it's too much of a challenge to have engines shut down and then somebody still has to come in and tweak things. So it's easier to just set the flare, set the vacuum. We'll be in compliance over the weekend. We're just not generating off-peak power. I mean, the weekends are all off-peak anyway. So we're kind of, working with what we have for that for the time being. As I mentioned before, the environmental manager and mechanical technician vacancies still exists. I guess we're on hold. We're in a holding pattern until we can determine what direction we're going forward with that gas to energy cost center, which is looking more and more like we're going to continue doing what we're doing. I guess engine number 5, I don't want to spend too much time on, but just for the newer board members, engine 5 is the biggest of the fleet. It's a 420. It was a 1.4 megawatt unit. It was problematic from the start. It uses 400 to 500 CFM of gas when it's running. So it's not very conducive anymore to the flows we have. Unfortunately, it had a failure on March 15th that damaged the crankshaft. Repair would be a complete engine replacement, so a block. It was in the $640,000 to $670,000 range. Just doesn't make economic sense to replace that engine with another large engine. So we're just holding at this time, we'll determine whether or not maybe it makes sense to replace that with a smaller unit for future years. Engine 4 had a bottom end rebuild. We're waiting for parts. We finally got it up and running, and it's now been operational for the last 2 months. There was a turbo that was shipped back prior to Zach leaving solid waste. that was damaged. We sent it back to Energy Dynamics. They inspected it. It needed a rebuild. We had them do the rebuild, and now they've shipped it back, and so we have a spare. So what we're trying to do is set up these engines that if we have a turbo issue, that we've got another replacement on the shelf, or we can take the old off, put a new one on, get it back up and running. It's it's about a $45,000 part for the engines that we have. When we get them rebuilt, they usually are about $20,000 for the rebuild. So our goal is to, if we're going to keep moving forward with power generation, to have backup turbos available, because that pretty much shuts the whole unit down. So it doesn't take many days to justify a $20,000 part to have. So engine 3 I talked about. I think Clint is still waiting for parts because it's running today. He's going to take that down, do some repairs. It'll probably be down for a couple weeks. He's going to the turbo on that unit has it's almost, they've had issues with the turbo, so there's a warranty claim on it. All we have to do is take that turbo unit off, ship it back to Energy Dynamics, or I'm sorry, ABB, where we bought the turbo from, and they will repair it, ship it back to us, and we'll have a replacement. I don't know all the details, but they've been having some problems with this model turbo for a period of time where they've had some premature failures, and they want to take care of that for their customers. So I guess when Clint takes that engine down, he's going to take the warranty repair turbo off. We have a spare that we'll put on it, so we won't have to wait for a rebuild. We'll be able to run that back once Clint finishes the minor repairs. And then engine 2R, we don't have a backup turbo for that one. We're looking at cost options. We had the first turbo that came with it failed. It's we've got an estimate from Energy Dynamics to repair it, but we're looking at a new option. I just haven't compiled all the quotes. So thanks for your time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So we're still working on engine 2R, but we'll hopefully have some numbers. I think a rebuild on that smaller one is about 15, and we're just waiting on a price of a new one. And then the landfill gas utilization feasibility study that we've been waiting. We finally got the final report from Tetra Tech on last week. I sent a copy to Foth. Our plan is to have Tetra Tech give a formal presentation, probably higher level bullet points on a PowerPoint, talking about the options in it rather than there's lots of details to keep it up on the higher end of things, or the lower end, sure. To try to get additional, feedback from the board. I'm not sure that we're going to have a peer review done by Foth quite yet. We might have to have another meeting where Foth provides some thoughts, but what Tetra Tech essentially proposed is RNG, variations of RNG, where they looked at our gas. One option would be to create an RNG plant here. Spend like $20 million. Have to work through an interconnection with the nearest pipeline, which is the A&R Trans-Canada pipeline that runs through our Snell Road site. Lots of hoops to jump through with RNG this late in the game. I don't know that it necessarily makes sense, but that was one thing they looked at. They looked at an RNG plant with a load-out station. So we'd fill semi-trucks with a cylinder, a high-pressure cylinder on the back there, pressurizing the gas to 3,000 PSI, and then ship it to a location that has an interconnect and an offloading station. That doesn't have a whole lot of merit either. I think it's still about a $15 million investment. And I don't think Outagamie County's vendor has an offload station in their plans. So where the nearest offload station would be. Right now, it's a Dane County landfill. So I'm not sure that that's going to pencil out. I think the thing that they felt would pencil out the best would be to create bio-CNG, which is essentially creating vehicle fuel from our landfill gas. It is a huge capital investment. Again, and then you would have to have a fleet of trucks, trucks that could use CNG, bio-CNG, and be able to set up some sort of contractual arrangement where they would buy it from you versus buying it from the Quick Trip up here for $1.99 or whatever it is. Both went through an exercise several years ago where they ran the numbers on this bio-CNG, and it just, we would need to sell for like $3 a gallon, and Quick Trip was selling it for $2 a gallon equivalent. So yeah, it just green. It is green, right? So we can sell bananas with it. We can sell bananas with potatoes and cover our loss. Right. So yeah, they also looked at potential for, they didn't look at this in great detail, but selling direct use gas to the prison, since our pipeline goes right around the prison. That has been something we've tried numerous times over the years. Prior to our power purchase agreement, we were pushing to try to sell our gas directly to the prison. It just, you know, you'd sell one local person on it, and then it'd go down to Madison, and then, no, too much trouble. Yeah, it never got legs. So they gave a cursory review of that. The last thing that they looked at is, in a cursory fashion, is, you know, would it make sense to, instead of selling the electricity back to the grid, would it make sense to take an engine that's at the sheriff's department, instead of selling it back to the grid, using it in the sheriff's department? But there's a whole, you know, whole nother layer of issues that you'd have to address, because you'd still have to have, you know, an interconnection with WPS, because that engine sometimes needs maintenance or sometimes shuts down. And I don't think the jail would want all of a sudden all the lights to go off because our engine shut down. So that seems to have a little more, I guess, red tape or issues associated with it. You know, the sheriff's department does use a fair amount of electricity to keep the facility running, but it didn't seem like any of their options were like, yeah, this is what really, this makes sense to do. So now maybe their project person will sell things a little better to them, but to you guys, but right. But I just wanted to kind of brief you on what's included in that, and they'll have a more formalized presentation for you at the next meeting. So
on the issues for the new members of the board, we tried to get together, just like John said, with selling the gas to the prison. It made all the sense in the world. We never got beyond whoever was managing this facility. One time. Yep. Yeah, and then it got down to those masterminds down in Madison, and it was like, no.
Yeah.
So that to me was a bad error on their part and whatever and stuff. But I don't want to ever get this board be in the negative. I want to, if anything comes down the road to say that we didn't try and do this, no, we tried every which way. Blame it on those people that make the wrong decisions and whatever. So
yeah, but you know, as it worked out,
yes. Oh, yeah.
We were able to enter into a pretty lucrative power purchase agreement for the last 15
absolutely.
years that absolutely probably ends up being a way better option than financially for us.
Yes.
So okay. Yeah, that's it for my report.
So okay. So now we got to go to, is Kathy coming on for anything?
Nope.
Nope. That's all. It's all done.
Yep.
Oh.
Yep. Oh. We gave her most of the meeting off today. She's got other challenges. Huh?
We're here.
What?
You're not listening.
No, she dropped off, so.
Yes.
I got a question. What happened to,
He had a doctor's appointment and Mike Easker said he wasn't able to make it today.
oh,
So,
okay.
yep, so he let,
He's the engineer.
yeah,
We need him.
yeah. Yeah, he let Kathy, both Mike and Howie let Kathy. Cassie.
Sorry.
Yeah.
One need enough.
Okay, then if that's it, if anybody has any future agenda items or whatever, contact John or whatever. The new board members, I mean, this is a big process going through all this. Whatever, it's like, I hope you all catch up on all the acronyms and stuff that are tossed around out there and whatever. So if you have any questions, call Cassie.
Oh, Cassie.
I'll get you an answer.
You get one of those armbands like the quarterbacks wear.
Yeah, you flip through, okay. RNG, okay.
Right, otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion's made to adjourn.
Now, did you say that?
Yes.
Yes.
No, I didn't, but thank you.
Yep.
The next meeting is the 15th.
9 o'clock.
Motion to adjourn, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That is carried. Thank you, everyone. It's a wonderful meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah, casino.
Huh?
On my way to California.
Well, glad to see you go.